Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because, yeah, I kind of always do. Today is certainly a topic about turtles. This is the Dragon Turtle Dungeons and Dragons Monster Lore video. This is the one I have been hoping to do for a long time. I think there's a lot of opportunity for a dragon turtle. I think a lot of the stuff that has happened with the dragon turtle has been confusing, and therefore it's a bit hard to know how to approach using a dragon turtle. Also, a dragon turtle tends to put people off because you're assuming that they're high level, and they may not be high level when they encounter the dragon turtle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present everything I can that I know about, that I've found, and maybe some other stuff as well about the dragon turtle. Dragon turtles are one of the most beautiful and awesome and fearsome creatures of the oceans, the seas, lakes, and water in general. With the dragon turtle's deadly jaws and their breath weapon and their habit for capsizing ships, dragon turtles are dreaded by mariners. When a dragon turtle surfaces, it is sometimes mistaken for the reflection of the sun or the moon on the water. This is a product of the colorization of the shell. The dragon turtle's rough, deep green shell is much the same color as the deep water that the monster actually favors. It prefers deep water rather than shallow. The silver highlights on the shell of the dragon turtle have a pattern a bit like light dancing over open water. And a dragon turtle's legs and tails are a lighter green compared to everything else, and they're flecked with golden highlights throughout. The colorization of a dragon turtle's head is similar to the legs and tail, but its crest, or the spines that are part of its crest, have golden flecks through them and dark green sort of webbing connecting them as well. Our dragon turtle's shell can reach up to 30 feet in diameter, and an adult dragon turtle can measure over 40 feet from its snout to its tail. So that's quite a large size, but that's actually quite a small dragon turtle. Surprisingly, they can get larger, and we'll talk more about that. Now, the biology of the dragon turtle is all but unknown. So I had to do some research, and I have pulled together everything I could find. None of this is necessarily in concrete, so just bear with me as I present this. Some of it is speculation. Sages have said this, sages have said that sort of thing. Dragon turtles are known as testines. Testines, I think it is, testines. They're characterized by having a shell that is mainly developed by the rib cage, actually. The rib cage actually forms their outer shell. Most of the dragon turtle's time is spent in the water, but it can move quite slowly over land if required, which it doesn't usually need to do. The shell of a dragon turtle is mostly bone, with the upper section being a domed carapace, and then its underside is a flatter, it's called a plastron or a belly plate. The outer shell surface of the dragon turtle is covered in scales made out of a very hard fibrous protein called keratin, and the dragon turtle survives in fresh and saltwater environments, although it favors saltwater over fresh water. The biological age and size limits of a dragon turtle are actually truly unknown, as they are impossible to observe. I mean, if you try to observe them, they're usually going to kill you. But sages suspect that many moving and in fact fixed islands may well be a sleeping ancient dragon turtle that just doesn't do very much. There are 8 neck vertebrae, part of the dragon turtle's highly flexible neck, that compensates for its rigid shell. The dragon turtle has no ear openings. Instead, the eardrum is covered with scales and encircled by a bony labyrinth-like cavity, which is basically the ear mechanism. There are multiple small lung cavities or chambers within the dragon turtle, connected to a complex array of muscles because its shell can't expand when it inhales. So therefore it has to spread its lung capacity right throughout its body. So the filling of air into those smaller lungs does not actually cause problems, because it will contract. Something has to contract within the body. The three-chambered heart of the dragon turtle pumps blood that doesn't have oxygen in it through the lungs to oxygenate the blood. Core blimey. It has two artery, and it's got two artery and one ventricle chamber. So it's a little bit different to most animals. And there's a reason for doing it this way. A lot of reptiles are designed this way, and it's kind of like a combination of a reptile and a dragon, so it's kind of got the same sort of biology around that in terms of the heart. So only 3 chambers. How the dragon turtle's breath works is kind of odd. Like the steam breath works, and it's really theoretical in terms of how it works, because we don't know for sure. But it's certainly related to how this cold-blooded creature regulates its body temperature to stay warm, because it is a cold-blooded creature. So how does it stay warm? Well, there's usually a way of doing that, right? A bony cavity below the dragon turtle's throat draws water into a water sac, and this sac is not like made up of delicate tissues. It's actually quite strong. It's capable of resisting a lot of heat, because it will wind up experiencing a lot of temperature change. There are 2 smaller glands below that water sac that release different chemicals into the water pouch, creating a chemical reaction that actually heats up the water. Would you believe it? Steam is built up in the dragon turtle's water sac, and it can be transferred throughout the body as heat. So this is how this cold-blooded animal actually stays warm. It can also, if it wants to, release that heat or steam through its mouth. By doing so, its body temperature will drop. So there's a limited number of times that it can breathe out the steam without affecting its body regulation. And that would, of course, be the stipulations. You'll usually find there's usually a limit to how many times it can do it before the body of the dragon turtle starts to shut down, and it has to hibernate, or it needs to sleep in some way. The dragon turtle is not a true dragon, apparently, because it doesn't become stronger or more powerful as it reaches old age. In fact, it may become more infirmed in many respects. But then we don't know exactly how old they can get, and we don't know exactly how big they can get. Now, combat with a dragon turtle, what does that look like? Though dragon turtles might be mistaken for a pleasant sight of light glintering off the water, this is an illusion, okay? It's never going to be maintained for long, because dragon turtles are pretty vicious. Dragon turtles are fierce fighters, and they will generally attack any creature that threatens their territory and presents themselves as a potential meal, of course. In combat, dragon turtles will usually attack with their formidable claws and their teeth first over anything else. There are 4 major weapons a dragon turtle can attack with. That is its jaw, its claws, its steam breath, and its crushing tail, which actually doesn't come into play very often, but it is there. The shell provides the dragon turtle with an excellent protection, but once the dragon turtle actually strikes a victim, it's really needed. It doesn't need to really rely on the safeguard. Protection is usually only for the first encounter, the first few minutes, or seconds, should I say, of any interaction with a dragon turtle. Because when the dragon turtle hits you with something, it's going to hurt a lot. You're probably going to wind up very dead. The dragon turtle's shell also provides the creature with a weapon for attacking ships. Certainly ships that are foolish enough to pass through its territory uninvited. So it will sink as deep as necessary, and then the dragon turtle will wait for the ship to pass over, and then rise up underneath the vessel, using all of its considerable bulk to capsize the unlucky target or ship. Some smarter dragon turtles will swim underneath a ship, rip off the rudder first, so the ship can't maneuver away from any kind of assault that it performs on that ship. So it's, depending on how clever your dragon turtle is, a couple of different techniques they might use. Now, ships under, say, 20 feet long will probably capsize about 95% of the time because they're just so small. Vessels that are between, say, 20 feet and 60 feet long will usually capsize about 50% of the time. And then ships over 60 feet will capsize maybe 20% of the time. So they've got, the bigger the ship, the more likely you're not to capsize. But again, this is related to the size of your dragon turtle, and they can vary in size. So a ship that isn't actually capsized by a dragon turtle will sustain some damage from the dragon turtle's impact and its natural weapons, because they will come into play when it tries to knock that ship over. In combat, when neither its bite nor its capsizing attack is enough to actually defeat its enemy or defeat a ship, a dragon turtle will use its steam breath. It's usually its last point of call. Now, you remember how I said by releasing steam through its mouth and as part of its breath, it actually drops its body temperature? This is part of the reason why. The dragon turtle can belch forth a cloud of scalding steam that will cover an area of about 60 feet long, and that's sort of the range, and say 40 feet wide and high. So it's quite a large cloud that comes out. Dragon turtles can use their deadly breath about 3 times a day before they would need to rest, or they're going to wind up going into hibernation, or potentially go into respiratory arrest. So they've got to be careful. All dragon turtles fight to the death, expect no mercy, and they give no mercy, because that they don't expect you to be merciful to them, and they won't be merciful to you. They're a very, very tough creature and monster. Now, what about the habitat and society of the dragon turtle? Dragon turtles are extremely solitary creatures for a number of different reasons, and I will explain those. Large, desolate sea caves and secret underground caverns that can be accessed only through water are the dragon turtle's favoured lairs. A dragon turtle swallows treasure to transport it, and then it regurgitates that treasure when it reaches its lair. So it's not like it's got hands, it can't carry anything. These lairs are difficult to find, but adventurers who actually locate a dragon turtle's cave will find it filled with treasures of all types, and it will be quite extensive. Once a dragon turtle gathers up a treasure hoard of some kind, it will protect that treasure hoard till death. Like, it will not leave it, unlike a dragon, which might potentially leave the dragon hoard and consider coming back at a later date. Dragon turtles speak their own highly developed language, and duplicating that language is difficult to do, and also learning that language even more difficult to do, because usually if you have a discussion with a dragon turtle, you wind up getting eaten. A dragon turtle's territory is well defined, and it may cover as much as 50 square miles of open water. Other dragon turtles are allowed into the area only during the mating season, though other turtles of the same sex will always fight to the death upon meeting. Like, they do not interact well with the same sex. It is this hostility, the fact that they're so hostile to each other and their own kind, this is what keeps the number of dragon turtles relatively low. Now, courtship and the reproductive mounting and egg-laying of a dragon turtle is identical to a normal turtle that builds a nest on land and lays eggs. And then, of course, they hatch and then move back into the sea. Mariners of any experience recognize the territorial claims of a dragon turtle and will often make extravagant tributes to a turtle controlling an area necessary for safe and speedy trade and travel. And if they didn't, they're probably going to wind up very, very dead. Now, the ecology of the dragon turtle. Dragon turtles are carnivorous, and they will eat almost any creature, including humans, of course, and other dragon turtles, to satisfy that voracious appetite they have. Large fish seem to be their preferred food for any kind of dragon turtle diet. The turtle can often be found lurking in the weeds, the muck at the bottom of a lake or the sea, waiting for fish to pass by. In particular, in poor years for fishing where there isn't a lot of food, dragon turtles have been known to use their breath weapon to kill large groups of birds that stay close to the water or land on a section of water. So seabirds would be their primary target as a form of food when there isn't enough fish. The impact on the environment is significant when a dragon turtle lives near something like coral reefs or the coastline or beaches or beneath the sea floor, as its bulk and the way that it operates causes major damage as it moves around. Conflict often arises between the dragon turtle and many intelligent aquatic races such as the mermen, Lakathar, I think it's Lakathar, something like that. But any kind of marine creature that are intelligent, they do not get along. And why is this? It's usually competition for the ideal lair or ideal territory or location. Like many other land-based relatives, dragon turtles are considered quite treacherous, selfish by all creatures, and they don't like to share the domain. So, I mean, a lot of creatures, whether they're below the sea or above the sea, don't get along with each other. Dragon turtles are just a much more extreme example of this. The shell of the dragon turtle can be used for a number of different things, making furniture, book covers, jewelry, spell components, and building materials, particularly because their shell is so large. The dragon turtle's shell makes an outstanding shield and armor if you can get hold of it. Because of the shell's strength and its natural resistance to the dragon turtle's own breath weapon, that means that the weapons, the armor, or the shield made from this material is stronger than normal, which also means that a dragon turtle shield or armor will probably be able to resist destruction from fire and scalding steam. Now, how do you go about incorporating the dragon turtle into your adventure? I've got a bunch of different ideas. Some of these ideas you'll like and some of them you won't. Take the ideas you like and leave the rest. The steam breath can be used as a propulsion method to smash into a ship. It can also be used to launch it into the air. Now, if you want to know more about that, you need to check out AJ Pickett because he actually talks about this in a bit more depth than I do. The whole world is, say, a colossal dragon turtle floating through space. Like you could just make the dragon turtle the actual world. A cave the player characters explores turns out to be, say, a sleeping dragon turtle that's left their mouth open and they've walked on in or clambered in. A series of small islands could well be sleeping ancient dragon turtles with their own ecosystem living on top of them that float across the ocean or the seas together. You could have the dragon turtle be an environmental warrior that sinks ships if they dump garbage into the sea or oceans. I like the idea of having sea elves using a dragon turtle that they have enchanted and mind controlled to drag them through the water while they're riding on water skis. That's right. We're going to use our dragon turtle as a speedboat so that sea elves can go pleasure riding and water skiing. What about adding in a sort of a moving shop? A travelling turtle merchant, for example, that sells aquatic gear from their shop built on top of an old dragon turtle's shell. And whether the dragon turtle is still in the shell is up to you, but it could be at least just a floating shell that it maneuvers around on. You could also have a dragon turtle that has cannons mounted onto the shell, turning this creature into sort of like a mobile dreadnought ironclad ship for blasting coastal line castles and fortresses. So a whole bunch of pretty strange ideas, I realise, but take the ones you like. Now, how do you go about defeating the dragon turtle? Don't fight a dragon turtle because it's really too large and powerful. Probably the best thing you can do is do not try to fight it. Bribing and negotiating with a dragon turtle is the smartest thing to do for safe passage and for mercy. Okay, you need to be offering it some sort of treasure for it not to wind up attacking you. You want to have your flying ship rather than your sea vessel if you can. Like if you're going to travel anywhere and you have to deal with a place, a location where there's going to be dragon turtles, you probably want a flying ship, and we want to be a good distance up in the air rather than traveling along the water. But if you have no choice, you have no choice. I would suggest shooting the dragon turtle with long-ranged bows and spells. Nothing, in no way do you want to be close to this thing. It can just do too much damage to too many things too quickly. Now, the publication history and origin of this creature is quite unique. Originally, the dragon turtle is created from Chinese mythology that combines the turtle and dragon, and we first see this in the Monster Manual for First Ed edition in 1977, and then we didn't see another printing in the Monstrous Manual. I believe it's the Monstrous Manual. Is it the Monstrous Manual? Yes, it is. The Monstrous Manual for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Second Ed edition in 1993. And then again, we get a Monster Manual for 3.5, the first one, in 2003. There's nothing for 4th Ed edition. And then the Monster Manual for 5e in 2014 presented the Dragon Turtle again. And as a result of that, we have a reasonable body of information, not an extensive body of information, but probably enough to get by if you really wanted to. And I'm hoping that this was useful to you in some way, and if it was, fantastic, if you found it interesting. If you have any questions or any feedback you would like to give, please use the comments section. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.